Well, hi there, gang. Dr. J. And today is going to be business tips. Now, it's not Wednesday, it's not Thursday, but it's Friday. But I've saved the best till last. I just had the pleasure of actually meeting somebody that came into, let's say, my inbox via a friend on a week that I've had tons of conversations about marketing. Different types of marketing, online marketing, Facebook marketing, you name it, every type of marketing. And my good friend Jamie sent me some information about Katie Perler. Now, this person is a person that specializes in, I'll just get it right, it's called e-commerce and online marketing. I'll say that again, e-commerce and online marketing. In this day where everyone's doing social media and everyone's sending out EDMs and all sorts of stuff, I thought it was be interesting to do a bit of a deep dive and find out what's working in the, let's say, the realms of email marketing. Because everyone talks about Facebook, don't they? So I had a great conversation with Katie today. So I said, well, let's just do this. So I'm going to introduce you now to Katie Perler from Perler Work, and she is a online and e-commerce marketing specialist. So welcome, Katie. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Nice to see you and meet you all. Ready to talk.
So we're going to have a good chat today about the thing, and I've got tips on email marketing and rekindling of leads.
Yeah.
Now, in the world that I live in, we do, it's all about conversion.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the leads, we can't convert them. So we've got to go back to mother hen. But we have lots of our companies have tons of leads that they've never spoken to. And then they go and do the phone calls and try to get hold of them and send them an offer again and all that sort of jazz. And to be quite frank with you, the return on investment of time is low. So I wanted to do a bit of a deep dive and find out some ideas on how automation, how emails can work and why they don't, and get some of your expert tips on that.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
But before we get cracking, I'd like to know a little bit about you and firstly, make sure you tell us the name of your business and how you got started in e-commerce and online marketing.
Yeah. So my business is Perler Work. So I am an e-commerce and online marketing consultant. So where I got started was solid 10 years ago now, when everyone was building online stores and things like that, and newsletters were basically the easiest off the bat way that you'd have a good sales day if you sent one. So that just came hand in hand with it, and I've been doing that ever since. But things have come pretty far now from just sending your one blast to all your leads and subscribers and whatnot. So we have a lot more tools to use now, and it's sophisticated, but it doesn't have to be too hard. So it's.
Well, I must say that word sophistication comes into it. I'm glad you brought it up early because I know me. In my company and so forth, we have a number of different companies, and when it comes super sophisticated, I'm quite savvy with most things, but when it comes down to becoming too hard, guess what we do? We either sit on our hands and we don't do anything. And that's where I find getting in contact with experts makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
Now, everyone talks about social media, Katie, and as you know, but you specialize in the email genre. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, look, it's still considered one of the most powerful forms of marketing. Social media is up there with converting. To be honest, used hand in hand, they're extremely powerful. It's very intimate, the inbox. Like we let a lot of things in there sometimes, but it's still you can be very personal, and there's a lot of trust associated with getting someone's email address, and it's all about just saying, thank you for trusting me with that. I'm not going to mess it up, and I'm going to talk to you how you deserve to be spoken to.
Okay, well, we're going to get into the words a little bit later today, because I was fascinated with what you were saying about some of the things that we should say and some of the things that we don't.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes down to people doing email marketing, and there's so much stuff that people do, but I know that a lot of people send out their stuff, and in the title, in the little the heading, There's some things that they write that goes to spam. So when they send out their emails, a lot of it goes to spam because of the filters out there. Could you tell us some of the mistakes that people are making in that area and how they could avoid them?
It's pretty easy to make mistakes there. You know, there are great tools online. Just if you're doing this yourself, there are great. Just write subject line tester into Google, and just doing that, it will tend to come up with a whole big list of things that you're doing right and wrong. It might be too long, the overuse of capital letters, doing 2 exclamation points. Short and sweet. I'm going to touch on this more, but just something clever is the way to go, rather than just making it too long, just getting a little bit greedy with it. And I would absolutely recommend A/B testing. So sending out a test to a small amount of your database, or just testing which subject lines get better open rates and going with that one.
Okay, I'm just going to recap on that a little bit. So someone can go onto Google and type in, and you said, what was it called? A tester?
A subject line tester. And usually there's a couple that come up. And you can just pop in any old subject line in there and just say, tell me what's wrong with it, and it will come up, and it will sort of score it usually. Okay.
So that's a subject line tester. So that's a golden nugget. Gee whiz, guys, isn't that good? So before you send your emails out, go into Google and go into a subject line tester.
Best 2 minutes, because all that great content you put inside it might not even be seen because the subject line's a little bit subpar, and it's a shame to have all that great content inside wasted on a average subject line.
So an adject subject line will actually have 2 things. It'll either go to spam or it'll have poor engagement. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so there you go, guys. Write that down. I mean, if we just left now, you've got something to do. So I'd like to now just talk about a little bit generically, just a couple of mistakes people make when firstly doing email marketing to, let's say, just the abyss to get new leads, or to their list. Now, I know there's abyss, it means I'm just going cold with target marketing, and obviously if you've bought a list, but a lot of people have their own list. So what are a couple of mistakes that people are making, and how can we fix each one of them?
I'm going to ignore all the sort of assumed ones, which is ideally never buying a list and things like that. But I'm going to say that one of my top ones is the copy, the wording being an afterthought. Thinking, well, I want to talk about this and I need the images and all that kind of thing. And then just sort of throwing in copy, all it takes is a little bit of bad grammar, or it being a little bit too much of a hard sell, or it's very emotional. We're all very emotional to a certain extent, and we all want to be spoken to and not sold to. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest ones for me. And I would also...
I'm going to jump in there. So I heard you say the word pictures. Now, from lots of seminars and people I've talked to, sometimes when we do all these beautiful EDMs and all the lovely pictures, that actually is doing us a misservice, because having that picture will then stop it from going into the inbox. Is that what you're saying? Keep it simple and relatively plain?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing graphic design for 10 years, so I love a pretty email, but I feel as though for my fashion clients, it's absolutely necessary. Whereas for lead generation and following up, creating relationships, I feel as though there is far more conversion rate and engagement with it just suits an email with just some good solid copy that is well laid out and not too over the top, and just well formatted is far more effective in my experience than an overly designed email that looks like it's sent to everyone.
Okay, so good solid copy. What's your definition of good solid copy? Because and then I'm going to ask you for what's your definition of a simply formatted, so people can understand, so they can do it straight away. So what's good solid copy?
I would say concise, because we could all say that we're time poor and attention is a problem in our modern society. So keep it concise as you possibly can. And obviously grammar and all that kind of thing, be careful with that. And just stick to, what do you want to talk about? Just really hone in on it and try not to be too elaborate. There are some great tools out there. I can probably give you a link and things like that. But I would just keep it, and personable, I feel, is really important, because for a lot of us, maybe it's a big business, maybe it's not, but just having that sort of, you can still have an authority and be like, well, I am teaching you this. So there is a certain level of authority there, but you also don't want to talk down to them too much and be too salesy, really.
Yeah, look, I hear loud and clear. Could you give us an example of let's say, some copy that would sound a little bit too salesy or too complicated, where in comparison to what would be simple and easy to understand? Because there's lots of genres. We do a lot of work with belly-to-belly businesses like fitness and therapies and health clubs, and but also dentists and real estate. But really, belly-to-belly type people that usually want to have an appointment of some description. So, an example of something that's too over the top, and what would be the alternative?
Well, I think that I don't know if everyone's probably noticed on social media that the Shop Now button has often been replaced in the click-through buttons to learn more. So it's softer. Often asking a question, would you like to do this, or do you have a minute to do this? It's an invitation. Is sometimes actually better. It seems like, but I really want to say, I want them to do this. But sometimes if we invite, it's amazing how much we can get a better click-through and conversion.
Okay, that's great. So instead of saying, do this now, say, could you do this now? Or, hey, I would invite you to do this. So that gives them the opportunity to say, no, that's great. So instead of having an elaborate thing and buy now and save this money, so I invite you to sort of move forward. It's just a simple word called invite. That's great.
That's right. Invest rather than shop now. The investment is this much. Yeah, it sounds a bit silly when you think, that couldn't possibly work, but it's just that softer language.
Terrific. Now we've talked a little bit about what we can do. We'll go a bit more of a deep dive a little bit later. Now, you are also an expert in the process of automation. So we go and get leads, and then they go into the, let's say, the autoresponders, and also if it goes into a lead nurturing model, so like a content, ask content, and so forth. We had a great conversation about that this morning. Now, could you give us some examples of, I would suggest that you think the automation needs to be put into place before we start doing the marketing? Because a lot of people just do the marketing and then think about automation afterwards. It's, oh my goodness, I've got to do lots of phone calls. And all of a sudden it becomes quite laborious with tons of calls. You were saying that it may be better to do the automation to make it sort of one-click activity, so we have more engagement.
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend doing it first. There's something that sort of needs to be thought about hand in hand, and that's, say if you wanted to gain leads and you had you were going to do a 5 email series that had a little nuggets of information in each one, which sort of got them used to seeing your name popping up in their inbox. And once those 5 emails have been sent each day, a little, mini course or something like that, then they're sort of, for starters, we're mapping that out in your email platform, so we can actually see how they interacted with those emails that you sent and really map out their journey, and then go, okay, well, anybody who didn't actually open those emails or only opened some, we can talk to them differently. We might want to talk to all of those people similarly, but at least we have the options there. But just, I would say, arranging that, saying I have the desire to do a little mini course, and then say, well, how do we automate that with the people who open it and then don't open it. What do we do with them?
So you're saying there's platforms or applications
Mm.
to do that. Could you give us some examples of applications or let's say platforms that would do that type of activity? For instance, you're
Yeah,
saying that you can see if they've opened it and what their journey is, and I'm suggesting then if they're saying this or not doing this, there would be a different email response, and then it may be going to a different bucket and then create a different autoresponder. Would that be right?
that's correct. That's correct. So it can really be triggered for any sort of action on your website or with your live chat or anything else that you have online or even in store in some cases. So we can create all different things depending on what actions are happening in your business or what leads, wherever they're coming from. So, yeah, and there are some great tools to do that.
And which applications or platforms would you recommend?
So my favorite one is Drip, which like a dripping tap, Drip. And that's really intuitive platform, and it's got really it's very modern and very easy to use for me. And if I were to let any of my clients, have a go at setting it up, I would be pretty okay with them trying it out with this platform, as opposed to some of the other ones which look very specialized and like you wouldn't want to touch them with a 10-foot pole. So there, just to name other ones, there's another one called Klaviyo, for example, and then there are some other more expensive enterprise level ones. And it's also possible with some of the small business ones like MailChimp.
Okay, terrific. So dovetail perfectly into what I want to ask you now. To get an email campaign, I know so many people have their lists of their ex-clients, lost leaders that have never been contacted, and they are accumulating quite quickly because the call to contact and the contact to booked appointment, and the booked appointment to show percentage are all conversion models which are critical. We say conversion's the key, but if we don't have the lead, we have a problem. So do you think if we're going to go through getting all of the emails right, done right and have the words correct, and then we're going to set up this automation, is it better to get an expert to do it? Or do you think it's better to just try to get something that's simple and do it yourself?
Look, I believe that it's good to get an expert involved if it's possible. And look, there are some of these platforms have excellent guides on how to do it. I would recommend looking at what's available and having a look at their guides and seeing if, based on their little how-to videos and blog posts, whether it looks too scary. As a business owner, I am a little bit of a control freak, and I like the idea of, being able to do everything myself. So I'm going to look at it and give it a go. But at the same time, I'm very wary of the fact that some people are better at doing things than I am, and I can't do everything, and I'm probably better off spending my time doing certain things. Maybe you're excellent at writing copy, and the idea of setting up a funnel of automations just sounds too scary, which in that case, that's where, as a person that does that, professionally, I would say, excellent. You do the copy, I'll check it over, and I'll come up with all the flows for you, or vice versa. Maybe you have a really, a solid idea of how you want that flow to go, because that's the way your brain works, and I can do all the copy for you. You just figure out, it's two pretty different sides of the brain to do this stuff. So just, you can just only do your best and figure it out. But there are all the workflows and automations, they don't have to be really complicated.
All right. Well, I hear you loud and clear here, Katie, but I'm just going to put my 5 cents worth in for what it's worth. When it comes down to expertise and so forth, I think you said it perfectly. When it comes to marketing, you've either got to be really good at marketing, want to spend time doing marketing, or you've got to then either get someone else to do it. If you're great at marketing, that's what your job is, that's terrific. But if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or solo warrior,
Mm.
I'm finding that a lot of these people, and a lot of them are clients of ours and so forth, are spending copious amounts of time trying to get this right,
Yeah.
and getting incredibly disappointed because of poor subject titles, things going to spam. I had a business that actually did a wonderful email, and most of the stuff went to spam, and they had to spend a
Yeah.
month of Sundays to fix it. So in marketing and email marketing in particular, I'm just finding that there's not a lot of people that are saying they specialize in this area. That's why I was really interested to have you on today, Katie, because I read regularly. It's anywhere between 50 to 70% more effective than any other type of marketing if it's combined with telephone calls or actually then having a good sales conversion process. So most people have leads that are lost leaders. Most people have a database, most, not new businesses. And I'm just thinking, I think you were very generous and say, look, read the guide, but only 5% of people listen to those guides. And then of those 5% of the people, there's, there would be about 10 to 20% that actually would understand them. Then it all becomes too hard.
Yeah.
And they do nothing. So I would suggest to guys, whether if you want to do it yourself, it's got to be a passion. If it's not, then you'll find a e-commerce or online marketing specialist that actually can help you with your email stuff. So that would be my recommendation. Not me trying to wave a flag here, but I'm just hearing this. It could be quite daunting, and then they don't do anything.
Yeah. Exactly. It's paralyzing once you just think, oh, like you look at it and you just think, oh, actually it's way too hard. And, maybe it's just going to cost too much money, or I don't know. So you just have to ask the questions and say, look, where my business is at, what do you think? What should I do? What can I start with? What's a little bit more phase 2? And that's what we can figure out. It doesn't have to be all in one hit, some massive change. You can actually implement it step by step and over a year if you wanted to just slowly ramp it up, which usually makes sense for a small business.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just small steps along the way. Now, you mentioned automation. So you're saying that you can actually create the email sequences and so forth, but you can also help with that automation or give advice in that area too. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
The other thing that you did mention, which is something dear to my heart, is copy.
Yeah.
I openly tell everybody when I do any type of copy, I will send it to Annalie Gale, who's a superstar as far as doing copy is concerned, as far as websites and all that sort of stuff. But you were telling me today in particular that sometimes the copy in the emails for the marketing, it's such with the marketing call to action to actually get an outcome. In other words, a what's next is something that's done really poorly. Could you give us an example of some of those wordsmithing errors that take place quite regularly? And I'm sure the guys want to know.
Look, for me personally, I just feel like it's going back to that hard sell, that shop now, and especially if you have maybe a great chunk of copy and then a really big, shop now button or buy now or do this now, that kind of thing. That kind of wording seems to be well and truly on its way out. It's just this really big focus, it seems, on the way we talk to people now is, it's just got to be a lot softer and a lot more personal, and people don't want to feel like they're being sold to at all. So we have to be, far more gentle, and people want relationships, and it's just that whole thing. It's like we are far more inclined to buy something if we're recommended, if we feel like a friend is telling us. So we're just tweaking the way we're going about it now.
So with some of those tweaks, I know that everyone says content is king. Content. So give them ideas and show your USPs and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I know you work a lot in the fashion industry and so forth. So why don't you give us an example of less text is better? We're talking about making sure it's quite straightforward and not a great elaborate text, or if it's going to be a bit of content, how big should it be? So give us an example of those types of things.
Well, I mean, the less text it takes a little bit, you've got to sit there and think a little bit more when you're doing this concise text. And that's usually the part that most of us can pretty much just sort of bang out a few sentences and and say what we need to say, but it takes time and effort to say what you need to say in far less words. You know, if I'm trying to get someone to come back and, you know, for a shopping cart, which is for my fashion clients, you know, I want them to revisit their shopping cart. And instead of saying, you know, come back, here's all the reasons, the opening line is just, the one that got away is the hardest to get over. And it's sort of, it's emotional, and you think it's sort of a little bit entertaining, a little bit, you see all the products there, and then there's below it is all the reasons that they can come back, free delivery or whatnot. So just take that little extra time to say what you need to say in a little bit of a clever way that is, you know, how you talk. You know, it's some of the easiest ways once I sort of got the hang of copywriting, which I've only just started, you know, the last few years to really pay attention to how I write, is start with how you talk. That's
a bit of a nugget there. So don't actually try to do a fancy type of perfectly grammatically correct, phonetically correct. Obviously, spelling's got to be there, but speak to the person the way you would speak to them, and keep it. I've got a friend of mine who's Russian, and she actually got a lovely accent, and she has a nice Russian way of speaking English. And when she does her blogs, it's actually in her language, and you know it's her. It's not someone harping about it. And I think that's what you're saying. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that if she'd run everything through this perfect grammar thing, then maybe she would just sound like any old person. But yeah, if you sort of read it out and it sounds unnatural to say as you're reading it out, it's probably a warning sign. Just think about that.
All right. Now, I'm going to get some example processes because we have lots of different businesses that listen to this. Now, there's the last couple of things I want to go through. Low entry that converts into a sale. For instance, we've got some businesses that say, hey, buy this thing for a month or whatever the case may be, or get this really inexpensive offer, which is going to give you an opportunity to come in and try before you buy, or whatever it may be. And then it converts into a, let's say, some type of sale, but it's not a big rock sale.
Yeah.
That's a email that goes out or a call to action, and all of a sudden the person will buy something.
Yeah.
That's into a, let's say, a try before you buy. Then there's a conversion model. Yeah. Or there's the email campaigns that go out to say, hey, opportunity, fantastic, click here now, or send your information, send us your phone number, and we'll give you a call. Or in some cases, it's automated to then book an appointment. Which of those types of emails, especially for the type of business that we work with, lots of belly to belly, I don't work with retail type organizations. They are people that either got to see people or they'll be sent a link to buy something. So do you think it's better to have a low entry that converts into a payment and then come in because it's more of a commitment, because then we then have them ringing up and booking them in and then convert them and upsell them? Or do you think it's better to have an email campaign that just creates an appointment with possibly a call to action if they buy the big rock?
Maybe it's me coming from a retail background, but I feel that people are more committed when they have money that they put towards it, even if it's just a small amount. They're more likely to sort of follow through on that. Maybe it's being a millennial, and I sort of think if I've done an appointment, you know, I can sort of wiggle out of that. For me, I believe, you know, getting the transaction is what to aim for, I feel, and you can work on getting upselling after that. But
that's great. That's terrific, because a lot of people are trying this now. They're saying, well, hang on a tick, why don't we get out there and get them to buy something so there's a commitment? Now they've actually bought something, then it comes down to the conversion models, whether you then call the person and then just confirm and then do your upsell later, or just say, book in now and come and see us. Well, that's a little bit benign, as you said. It can be, or you can wriggle out of that. So they might be seeing an offer, but they know they're going to be sold to. So there's a golden nugget for you guys. Something out there to get them to have a transaction.
Yeah, either way, that email and that wording's got to be killer. So
there you go. The wording in that email's got to be a killer.
Yeah.
Because how many chances did you get them to do this, Katie? How many chances do you reckon you had?
Oh, not many. Not many. That first one, it's got to be good. And then you just got to you can't drop your game. That's the thing.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, listen to that. The copy's got to be right. You've got to be a killer copy. I love that. And making sure they've got a bit of an offer so they commit to something that is actually a fiscal. So then when you then call them up, you can then tell them what to expect, and then we can put things to bed. Terrific. All right, well, we're coming to the end, and we could talk hours about this, but I know you've got to rock and roll, and I want to make sure we get to just a wrap up on a couple of things. If our listeners would say, well, I've got a list, and I want to actually do something after listening to Katie, what's something that they could do straight away that could actually increase their conversion to get either for people to firstly read the email and to opt in to buy the offer or make a phone call? What's something they could do like straight away?
Yeah, so use that subject line tester and just spend, an extra 20 minutes on that copy that you're writing and really think about what you're saying and would you go for it? Would that appeal to you? It's an easy little question that sometimes we can not do and just get really just in our usual pattern. Try and break it a little bit, read it aloud, and just consider sending it to testing different things to different people and see what works. Testing is your best friend in small business. You have the ability to do that yourself and just see what works, and then just keep tweaking. Tweaking.
Terrific. So the last question, and it could be another interview, but this process of rekindling. There are so many businesses that I've got a business that have, they said, I've got 45 people in our list that opted in over the last 2 or 3 years. They've got ex-clients in there as well. Yeah. They've got, and I believe just sending out a dump email to these people is you can't call them all, and more importantly, it becomes almost spam. So yeah. I've always suggested, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, that we have something that's really exciting and an opportunity to get them to re-opt in to something, to either buy something or actually go in there and say, I want to talk to you about what you've done that's different. It's called rekindling. Yeah. To send out some stuff to get them to re-opt in. So in other words, it cleans up your database, because after, it's usually, to be quite frank, after 5 days, they're only warm, and then after a month they're pretty much done, but people still keep marketing to them. So what's your views on an email campaign to try to rekindle into an opt-in?
Yeah, so it's possible to set up a workflow so that whenever someone hasn't opened any of the emails or has dropped off in a way that makes you feel like, okay, well, we're going to lose them. You can make it so that they're automatically sent an email after a particular period of time. And that email, probably a question in the subject line is a good one. And again, it's just using all those same techniques. Keep the email short and sweet. This is the time to offer the discount if you haven't already. Ask a question. Let them know that, we'll stop talking, sort of, obviously not this exact words, but, we won't keep bothering you if, we don't hear from you about this. And then they can just automatically sort of go into a deactivating sort of pool of subscribers.
Should be something in the email to get them to rekindle. In other words, say, I'd like that extra thing. I'd like that a coupon, or I'd like to have that appointment. I'd like to buy it for $1. Should they have to do something without just having to type in something so it says there's an action?
Yes, that's the best thing to do, is just a click through wherever that's going, wherever it's related to your business, just some sort of click through. So we can, it maybe like an email open is still enough for you, but usually you want them to sort of interact with it. And if you want to be really sure, if you're really sort of weary about not taking them off the mailing list after that, it's possible to automatically resend that campaign if they don't open that one. But then if you don't have any bites from that, it's time to say goodbye. And
some of the lists get
part with it.
moldy. All right, now. Thank you so much for all that wisdom. Guys, how good was that? I mean, all those, using those testers, making sure your copies are cleaned up, making sure you keep it simple, and make sure you talk in your language instead of actually trying to be perfectly grammatically correct. Now, Katie, how can people contact you? What would be the best way of contacting you? Because I'm sure that some of the guys and girls would like to have a little bit more of a conversation about their email marketing.
Yeah. So, my website is Pearler, that's PEARLER.work. That's it.
Just say that again because they're maybe rushing now trying to get a pen. So just say that again for me.
It's Pearler.work. And so I've got a little live chat thing in the corner. You'll see my face there. You can send a little inquiry on that. There's also a little email subscribing area that will pop up as well. So if you just want to get I can do a email marketing audit. So basically just look under the hood of what you're doing so far, make some suggestions, and then if you want to talk about a little more, get some free advice, I'm happy to talk to you and we can just figure out what might suit your business.
All right, terrific. So that's Pearler Work, right?
Pearler Work. Yeah.
There. And so you're saying that if they can opt in to an email marketing audit, so you'll have a bit of a chat with them about what they're doing now, give them some ideas, or you might be able to show them how to actually fix that, or they maybe get you to help them. I mean, probably better to get you to do it so they can do what they're better at, eh? Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Terrific. All right. So thank you so much, Katie, for your time. It's been fantastic to get some clarity on how to do some e-commerce, but also in that email genre. Everyone's talking about social media, and I'm certainly not up to speed with some of the things you've actually discussed today. So thank you.
Great. Awesome. All right. Right on. Thank you.
All right, gang. How good was that? Now, after every interview I do, I want to ask you a question. What are you going to do to be able to fix your emails? What are you going to do to actually take specific action? Because ultimately, implementation is the key. I strongly recommend that you have a look at your subject lines, look at what you're saying. Are you talking the way you need to talk? And are you getting that subject line tester sorted out? And I strongly recommend that you get onto the email. I'll put a little link there and get Katie to do an email marketing audit. Nothing hurts. It doesn't hurt having a conversation. So, guys, take some immediate action and put some things down in the comments on how much you're going to put into place. All right? Well, I'm Dr. J, and I'll catch you later. Bye for now.